You see, I think everyone has got this wrong. And on January 6th, I was on and ride along with the police, which I do frequently. And sometimes they let me make siren noises out of the window. Anyway, on January 6th, I brought my pipe with me, which I do frequently. Sometimes I smoke the pipe. But this time, they told me to get out and get rid of it. So I put it under the park bench next to my friend KAMALA. Next thing I know, people are saying bomb, bomb, bomb. I think there is a lot of confusion here. I'm sure my dad will sort it out.
Hi, Julie. How are you?
Benny, I'm great, and I just want to say I'm so thrilled what happened with baby Theodore. What a blessing. He is so beautiful. You have such a beautiful family, and we can all relate to that, but God bless you and your wife and everyone who took care of him. So just wanted to start with that.
Yeah, I thank you so very much for that. Life stops, quite frankly. Life stops when you have children, and then when your children are suffering, life stops as well. And so you make sure everything is okay, and then you go back to trying to save the country for them, actually, from evil forces that let. I mean, it's interesting, Julie, that you bring that up. And it's certainly how I come back to work, right? I come back to work because I'm like, this work is about hopefully doing the most honorable thing you can do, which is when I die, which I will. Like, did I leave a better or worse country for my kids? And that's kind of a mark of a moral man and woman. It's interesting that you bring that up about my son, because this pipe bomb, apparently, they allowed little school children to walk right past it at the DNC. That's on the footage, and they let this team of like kindergartners on a rope line go right past this bomb, which is immoral, grotesque, demonic, and now with this brand new footage that I want you to talk us through, and we waited to this moment to play the footage so that you can talk us through what's happening in it. None of this makes it all smells like a rat, all of it. So if you do care about like protecting little kids or the health and safety of little children in this country, you've tuned into the right place. And Julie Kelly has the receipts. So talk us through this new footage and what's happening here.
So first, Benny, it's important to recall that the FBI claims that the pipe bombs outside of the DNC and RNC were planted the night before, between 7:30 and 8:30 on January 5th. We've all seen the hoodie, the grainy footage, etc. So what we've been covering and what we see here, despite multiple law enforcement agents, Secret Service agents, security guards, somehow, and you see in this yellow and red dot, that is where the pipe bomb allegedly was found. Now, what you had just saw was an individual carrying a bag exit that DC Metro SUV, walk towards that location where the bomb allegedly was found. There's no camera on that area, so we have to use a screenshot. And then you will see him exit with the bag right here. So very dark.
We're gonna pause it right there. Yep.
So
Julie, is he? If you don't mind, we're just gonna make this as big as possible on the screen while keeping us on the screen right here, okay, so that everyone can see. Is he like is he blocking his face from like a camera? Is he like obscuring?
It appears so, Benny.
It sure looks like it.
Keep in mind, they knew because they're Capitol Police. So this is Kamala Harris's detail. Capitol Police, DC Metro, and Secret Service. So they know that there are security cameras all around this area. So yes, it does appear as though he is concealing his face. We also don't even know if he's with DC Metro Police. Who is this individual? We don't know.
You can see right here, so I have a jacket here in the studio. So you can see right here that he's like, it seems as though he's pulling up his police jacket and blocking his face. The video is a little grainy, but you can you can see it. He's hiding his identity. Okay, so why would he be hiding his identity, Julie? Talk me through as we play the clip here. What happens next?
So you see him exit that frame. Now this is a security camera right in front of the DNC here, the driveway where Kamala Harris had entered at 11:25 that morning. So she's already been there an hour and a half. So he exits this frame. Now you could see we tried to match up right where the exterior is, and you could see it kind of matching up where the bomb was found. Again, no camera on that area. It only panned briefly to that area for about 5 seconds, so we had to use the screenshot. So you see him and exit that frame and enter towards where the alleged bomb was found. So he's then this SUV, you could see the Secret Service SUV in the driveway. Again, Kamala Harris had been there at this point for an hour and a half. We still don't know why, Benny. She left the Capitol. She was at the Capitol at 11:15. She left after a Senate briefing and went to the DNC. We have no idea why. Why did Kamala Harris, when she's about to make history, we know she loves attention, why did she leave and go hide at the DNC? So here you see the SUV back up into the driveway. And then you see this same shady individual. Again, we're not sure if he's law enforcement, Secret Service, who he is.
Doesn't look like law enforcement. Wearing all black?
Correct.
It sure doesn't seem. I mean, I know DCPD. I lived there for 15 years. That does not look like a uniformed police officer.
Not at all. And there is some speculation that he was not tied to either one of the three agencies who that made up her security detail that day. So that's that.
The idea here. Yeah, please.
If I can, the timing's super important here. And I did post this on X yesterday, additional clips. This happened about 10 minutes after the alleged pipe bomb was found near the Republican National Committee headquarters and the Capitol Hill Club, which you're familiar with. Now, this is within blocks of the Capitol. You could walk to the Capitol from both of these buildings, DNC and
You can see the
RNC.
Capitol from this building. You can look up and see the Capitol. Yeah.
Correct. And we saw people passing by here going to the Capitol or headed towards the Ellipse, which is west of here, correct? So that would be west of where this is. So 10 minutes later, 10 minutes earlier, a woman, Carolyn Younger, who has ties to FirstNet, she was working for FirstNet. And we know that that's a law enforcement entity. She had ties to DC law enforcement. We're going to dig more into that. She allegedly found that pipe bomb at 12:41 or 42 while she was doing her laundry. More suspicious. So here we are 10 minutes later. Now, at the same period, Benny, at 12:53 right now, we have the Ray Epps, Ryan Samsel breach of the western side of the Capitol, where Ray Epps and others dismantled, pushed police, and pushed down those bike racks to get towards the Capitol moments before the 1 o'clock joint session of Congress commenced that day.
So this was a diversionary tactic, or was this a backup plan? This is a couple of questions I have coming into this, okay? Not being an expert on this topic. So was this meant to pull Capitol Police away, or if Ray Epps failed in breaching the Capitol, is this intended to still smear, right? Oh my gosh, because I could see like a whole pipe bomb, this being turned into its own like MAGA bombed the DNC and RNC, right? Let's unite let's unite both parties against MAGA. If the breach actually didn't move forward, right? And there's too many variables to say it is going to happen or isn't. What were these pipe bombs allegedly?
Well, I think it was a backup plan, Benny. And I think that this initiated the panic that day. If you will recall, this initiated the evacuation of the Cannon House office building is right there. This initiated the evacuation of those buildings far before the protest or anything that happened, because the physical breach into the building didn't happen until about 2:12 that day. So this started the headlines, right? And you had Representative Elaine Luria was tweeting from her office, "We've just been evacuated. They found a pipe bomb." So I think it was a backup plan, but then they started to recognize how this was all unfolding. To your point that, protesters, federal agents, undercovers, informants, all made up this mob, as they call it, and then the plan was underway. So I think it was part of, oh my God, there was a pipe bomb found, and oh my God, Kamala Harris is in the building, because we still have no idea, as I said, why she left. So this could have been, but Benny, here's why you had, and we found this footage as well, 2 sweeps using bomb sniffing canines earlier that morning, about 9:40 and even earlier. You had multiple law enforcement agents and officers. You had passersby, to your point, you had children. You had pedestrians who were headed to the ellipse. This is why none of them saw the pipe bomb, because it wasn't there until this guy planted it at 12:52 that day. There is no other way to interpret what we just saw.
From a police car. Being escorted by law enforcement.
That's right. DC Metro Police, led by Muriel BOWSER. That's her police force.
So you believe now conclusively that there was no pipe bomb there until it was planted by a murky figure being dropped off for this assignment. Was Kamala Harris in the building at the time that this was being planted? Help me with the timeline here.
Correct. So let's go a little bit further. So yes, I think it's very obvious now that this was the individual who planted this device. It was a prop, right? It's not, and Darren Beatty has covered this as far as the RNC one, with this kitchen timer that was set for an hour, but it was supposedly planted 17 hours earlier. So after this happened, you are getting more police. We see police activity at the RNC. Then later, and we have this footage in my piece at Declassified with Julie Kelly, the footage that shows the plainclothes Capitol police officer who, responding to the RNC, apparently now does a sweep. He finds the device at about 1:05 that day. So about 15 minutes after what it appears to be this unknown individual planting the stunt device right there. Kamala Harris is then evacuated from the building at 1:17. And I believe she returned to her residence, did not go to the Capitol until later that evening.
So was Kamala Harris, in your estimation, was she moved there in order to create the narrative that somebody was trying to bomb a building that had a protectee inside of it? Like to accelerate that narrative?
Benny, I don't see how we can view this any other way, especially since the fact the Department of Justice lied for an entire year in charging documents, claiming that Kamala Harris was in the Capitol during the protest and rendered that building off limits. They finally had to disclose at the end of 2021 that, oh no, she wasn't in the Capitol. She was at DNC headquarters. What? She has never mentioned the fact that she was there, that she had this brush with death, that she was almost killed by a MAGA bomber, right? That's what we were told. This was a Trump supporter who did this. She's never mentioned it. She's never been asked about it. And the media has completely ghosted this story. So all of that in total. And you know who else ignored this? Benny Thompson. We have this clip in my piece as well. Benny Thompson, directly asked by Representative Tom Massey in February 2024, did you investigate the pipe bomb threat? No, we didn't.
We actually have that clip. Would you like for me to throw to it, Julie? We actually have that if you'd like to. Yeah, here we go. Let's throw to it. We're prepared for you. Here we go.
Are you concerned about the lackadaisical attitude of the secret, or maybe you haven't seen the video? Have you seen the video of this discovery of the second pipe bomb?
No. Let me just say, a lot of what you've said here today, I have not been privy to, but I am of the opinion that if the chairman wants to look into that, you convince him to issue the subpoena, I'll go with him.
If I would like to show you that video at some point. I'm surprised your committee did not find it. I mean, there were 2 bombs that day, and according to FBI and ATF and Capitol Police, they were operable, viable bombs. One of them was just feet from Kamala Harris, who was going to become the Vice President of the United States, And the Secret Service sat there in their patrol car. It looks to me like they finished eating their lunch before they got out to look at it. And then it was 10 minutes. This is all on video. 10 minutes before they got Kamala Harris out of there. And again, it is Secretary Mayorkas who oversaw the production of these documents, these texts, which were never produced. And that's a real problem for me.
So knowing the way that the media ecosystem works, and you see how powerful how unbelievably powerful it is, right? To take the most unpopular vice president in history, which everyone wanted to dump from the ticket just 60 days ago, and make her into Slay Queen. To that point, Julie, I do think that possibly the most damning piece of evidence here is that the media and Kamala Harris have we had a MAGA bomber on our hands that was targeting Kamala, and they've never tried to milk that. They've never tried to squeeze that juice. Not even once. Not a reporter has ever asked, like, who the hell is this person? You can't find this, one of the worst bombers, like arguably the worst bomber in American history based on who they were targeting. You can't find that person. They just disappeared into a Virginia metro station. No one's ever asked.
Nope. No one has ever asked. And this is even more shocking, Benny, in light of the report that was finally released by the Department of Homeland Security Inspector General a few weeks ago, that Secretary Mayorkas tried to slow walk, and they stonewalled this man's internal investigation. He confirmed that her detail, that Kamala Harris herself came within 20 feet of where this device allegedly was when she arrived at 11:25 that morning. Even the outlets who have J6 beat reporters, they've all ignored it. I can only find 2 articles recently, one at the Washington Post and one at ABC News. That's it. NBC News has a full-time J6 beat reporter, ignored. New York Times, Politico, I think Politico had one article before the report came out. They have completely ghosted this story for a reason, because it was an inside job. This, to your point, and I know others have talked about this, this is, no pun intended, one of the most explosive stories probably in this century so far. That we were told the FBI identified this bomber the night before, tried to blow up 2 buildings, or the FBI said it was viable. The FBI said it was lethal. They have a $500,000 reward, they claim. 3.5 years later, more than that, they don't have a single suspect. Even more sketchy, Benny, is the Washington field director, FBI field director, Stephen D'Antuono, when he was interviewed by Congress, Republicans last year, he said that, we have 7 data files of 7 different providers, cell providers. One of the files is corrupted, and that's probably the provider of this pipe bomber. I mean, how are we supposed to believe any of this?
There are so many cameras on Capitol Hill. This individual who is in this footage, who they say is the bomber, right? The person who's walking around. There are maybe thousands, maybe tens of thousands of cameras on Capitol Hill. Okay, Capitol Hill is a terrible place to go hide. All right, you can't hide on Capitol Hill. Don't try it. So they have this guy sitting on the bench. Apparently, there is a camera angle of the bench, Julie. Like two-part question here. So where the hell was this camera angle with the bench when the police officer was dropping it up? Please show the camera angle. Where was this camera angle of the bench when the police officer was dropping it off? Because we can see the bomber sitting on that same bench, the bomber, the night before. And then who the hell was that guy? Please put back up the hooded gentleman walking around. Where's this footage? Right here, pause it. Where's this footage? Where's that angle, Julie? Where's that camera?
That camera and Darren Beatty at Revolver did an extensive investigative piece into how that video is corrupted, how slow it was, that it does not, it sort of looks, it is doctored, the footage outside of the DNC. That is a DNC security camera on that building that apparently the DNC has refused to produce to investigators or anyone else. So that is the key. That camera is the key to see whether that individual we saw exit the SUV at 12:51, walk to that vicinity, if he set that underneath the bushes between those two benches.
Hold on. Julie, you're telling me that the DNC currently in their file drawer has footage of the bomb and the bomber, and they refuse to give it up. They have footage of the MAGA bomber who tried to explode a device that could have harmed or injured some of the most high-level protectees in the world, and they refuse to cooperate with law enforcement to help pin down the MAGA bomber? Really? That seems so odd based on what I've seen from the DNC. So strange.
Yes, I believe that that is what Darren reported, and others have said as well, is that the DNC refused to produce that footage captured from that security camera. Now, if you're Benny Thompson and you had full subpoena power, instead of subpoenaing, Donald Trump's campaign advisors or sending criminal referrals against people like Steve Bannon and Peter Navarro for not cooperating, why wasn't his very first subpoena to the DNC to get that footage? And I do think, though, the Republicans should do that. I know that you saw Tom Massey there, Representative Barry Loudermilk, who is the chairman of the subcommittee investigating January 6th and the committee. They could certainly issue a subpoena demanding the production of. But Benny, something tells me that perhaps that file is corrupted as well. So maybe they lost it. Maybe that went poof too.
You can see here the footage that Julie is referring to from Darren Beatty at Revolver, with pretty conclusive proof that the footage has been doctored in order to protect the identity of the bomber and the actions of the bomber. Okay, got it. All right, so
here's one thing that Darren Beatty has said, and if the pipe bomb turns out to be a hoax and a stunt, an inside job, which it is, the entire January 6th narrative falls apart, all of it.
Yes.
You can't say this was an inside job executed by law enforcement or Secret Service. Also, all the text messages are gone, Benny. This is also very important. The text messages belonging to 24 officials, including Kim Cheadle, who was at Protective Services Bureau at the time, including the director of the Secret Service, all those text messages were deleted at the end of January 2021, after Joe Biden took office. They said it was part of a cellular replacement program that had already been planned. All of the phones were wiped. So we don't even know. We can't see messages between Secret Service agents at DNC or certainly at the Capitol or the White House or anywhere else. But more importantly, we can't see the communications, the records between those Secret Service agents and their higher up related to what was happening at the DNC.
So this is you can see here what the FBI has. They have the guy's sneakers. Really? You can't get some DNA off a set of sneakers?
Right.
You got it. Okay. All right. Go back to the final frame here and show the FBI's little. This should be the number one. This guy being brought in, right? Should be frog marched through every justice building in Washington, D.C. We finally got him, right? We got the guy. He's trying to light a bomb that could have harmed the, first black vice president, and the narrative is right themselves, right? And he's totally evil. And then you go through his phone, right? You show every person he's texted, you arrest them, you show every group he was part of on Facebook, you shut all that down. You slander and smear if he watched Tucker Carlson or whatever. You just like go ballistic. If this is the easiest slam dunk for the regime for narrative building ever, and they got nothing, huh?
And they're still arresting J6 to this day. They're still arresting J6 protesters to this day. They just arrested 2 individuals yesterday. I think they've arrested 10 people in the past week. You know who else never talks about the pipe bomber? Joe Biden. Joe Biden, who made January 6th the center of his campaign until, of course, he dropped out. he brings up the gallows, right? The gallows that were also created by people we have never identified or arrested. He never talks about my incoming vice president was almost blown to bits by a MAGA bomber. He never talks about it either.
It's crazy to me, Julie, that you and I are the only people talking about it. Because, again, I got to tell you, like, all things equal, if you did this, it's terrible. You shouldn't be in my movement or representing my movement. I want you to get caught. I would like for horrible things. I would like the maximum damages, to you, because it's an evil act. Now, this connects, though, a through line that was so fascinating to me. From the Gretchen Whitmer Fednapping, which you also happen to be an expert on, and Thomas Crooks, the would-be assassin of President Trump, they all had pipe bombs.
Correct.
As noted, now for the third time on this program, don't Google this. You shouldn't be looking up how to build these things. You should never do that. I don't ever want anybody doing that. Because when you do that, then you should be immediately flagged, and you should have a knock on your door and some really tough questions and maybe some charges. I don't want a country where you can go do those kind of things. Why were these individuals, let's start with Thomas Crooks, how did Thomas Crooks get the training to build pipe bombs?
That's a huge question. And I'll tell you, as soon as I found out, as soon as they reported that he had explosive devices, I went, here we go. Same thing as Gretchen Whitmer. Recalling Gretchen Whitmer, Benny, that as this group that they had targeted started to fall apart, they embedded an undercover FBI employee who posed as an explosives expert to show the guys, hey, we can really do this. We can blow up Gretchen Whitmer, this bridge leading to her house, so law enforcement can't get there. They showed in September of 2022, the group of targets, they showed a video by this FBI undercover employee, and this is important, of an SUV being blown up. You know who produced that video, Benny? Guess.
The FBI?
The FBI did. This is the extent that they will go to, really endangering people. Gretchen Whitmer should be irate at the FBI because you had this group, you're goading, and then at the end, here, we can make explosives. We're going to go buy all the elements to do it. Of course, the same thing now with J6 and now the Thomas Crooks thing. How did this 20-year-old kid, and now they don't have any chat messages. They said he had an encrypted chat app, but, we can't get into it. Baloney. I've seen this in J6. This is impossible. We're supposed to believe Benny, there is no doubt in my mind that Thomas Crooks was in communications with probably an FBI informant, undercover agent, or an asset from another department, including DHS. He was training at a rifle range where DHS employees and other government employees train. It has all the hallmarks of another setup, but this time their target got away from them. I'm not sure that this is what exactly the FBI wanted. I can't say that declaratively, but this is what the FBI has been setting up in all of these domestic terrorism cases. And this is the result, and still terrifying to think of what could have happened to Donald Trump that day.
Truly. So you believe with absolute confidence, and it means a lot to us on this program and to our audience who tune in to see Julie Kelly, who is the best researcher and investigator on all of these fronts. You believe with extreme confidence that one, the pipe bomb was planted just minutes before it was found and was not planted there the night before, and that Thomas Crooks had a federal handler.
Yes, absolutely. Both of the pipe bombs were planted by both of the individual who found it at RNC, I believe. I have to say that. But I have no doubt Thomas Crooks, the typical target, right? Sort of a loner, an outlier, sort of an oddball. Then all of a sudden he becomes a marksman and an explosives expert and knows how to manage a drone and gets away with it. This is classic what we've seen out of this FBI really for decades, but especially more recently, targeting what they call domestic violent extremists. They're not targeting them. They're not arresting them. They are creating them. And that's what's even more dangerous.
Oh, it's just awful. It's just terrible. I mean, and you can go back through the documented incidents of this, like in Galveston, Texas, where the FBI was effectively creating an ISIS mass shoot, like creating the conditions for an ISIS mass shooting, and encouraging it, and even trailing the shooter, like following him to make sure that they got it done. I mean, it's unspeakable evil. Unspeakable evil. Answer me this. Answer me this. So the FBI puts out that footage of the guy with the hoodie. Can't tell his race, can't tell his gender, can't tell anything about him. They have his shoes. Don't worry, we just can't get any DNA off him because, you know, not a single skin fleck or flake. He never touched his shoes. How is that possible? Okay, I'm going to stop yelling. How is that possible? I put on shoes every day. I tie my kids' shoes. How do you put on a pair of shoes without touching them? Don't know. But who was that person? So that's apparently like, you know, is that like central casting, right? Is this like a Hollywood movie? What was that person doing then with those bags wandering around these locations?
I don't know. I mean, was that part of the setup that they were going to use this individual who was walking around? Or was it just a person walking around that area and then they said, oh, here's the pipe bomber? They never show this individual setting anything down. Even in that doctored footage outside of the DNC, you still don't see him underneath. I mean, even where he was sitting, so that's the shrub, right. So right underneath, you never see him take anything out of that bag. You never see him position anything there. There's some other really weird, I won't get into the details, but we are going to be doing more reporting on that. Mm-hmm. That camera angle is very strange because you will see a scooter there. That same scooter was in the same location, same configuration when the alleged bomb was found the next day. What's the likelihood of that?
Pause.
That footage itself, as Aaron has very articulately explained, was doctored. And there's a good chance that that individual wasn't even there, that's been created as well.
So you'd say the scooter, the same scooter. So that scooter right there that you can see is clear as day.
See that scooter right there. Camera one. You see that scooter. See where it's positioned?
Yep.
Scooter's in the same location. I don't know if we can go back quickly to the 109, the quick shot that we have. That same scooter is there 17 hours later in the same configuration.
In your footage?
Yes. If you go to, I embedded
yep.
scooter.
You can see it right there.
We're supposed to believe that scooter on January 6th with all these people all over the place and law enforcement, it just sat there overnight throughout the entire day.
How do you, so the Whitmer Fed-napping was thrown out based, you can help me. You're the expert on these. I follow the trends. That was such a botched operation by the feds that a judge, I think, tossed it out. Am I correct on that, Julie?
So you had 14 men who were arrested. 6 of them faced federal charges. 2 of them pleaded guilty and cooperated. The trial in April of 2022, this was the biggest, DOJ's biggest domestic terror trial in decades. After the trial, 2 men fully acquitted, found not guilty amid evidence of FBI entrapment. The entire defense was based on FBI entrapment. 2 men flat out not guilty, acquitted on all charges. The 2 other men got a hung jury. DOJ immediately says we're going back to trial in August of 2022, thanks to the judge in that case. And this is on appeal as well. Those 2 men were convicted. But of the 10 men who went to trial, Benny, in state and federal trial, half of them were found not guilty. And they were found not guilty amid overwhelming evidence of FBI entrapment. Now, the 2 men who were convicted in that second trial, that is on appeal. I covered the oral arguments in the appellate court in May. And it sounded to me that the 3-judge panel there was going to vacate that conviction, send this back to the judge who prevented the jury from seeing hundreds of communications between FBI handlers and the informant, saying it was hearsay. So the appellate court was very skeptical of that. And it sounded, and I'm waiting for this too, and this could happen anytime. The appellate court vacates that conviction, sends it back to the trial court, demands a third trial of these two men who are in supermax prisons, by the way, Benny. They are treating them like 9/11 terrorists, even though they were completely set up by the FBI.
Well, if they were 9/11 terrorists, they'd get a plea deal. Yeah, so that's different.
Well,
you know.
exactly.
Yeah.
So that's on the horizon as well.
All right. FBI tactics doom case against men charged in Fednapping of Michigan governor from the Chicago Sun-Times. Probably not a paper that wishes to write this headline, but does. All right. So this is my final question for you, Julie, as you've talked about this bombshell after bombshell. As seen here in the inability to charge these, the Fednapping, these things eventually start crumbling, right? Like these fake plots eventually start cracking, and they destroy themselves under their own weight of either sloppiness or just a lack of grounding in reality. People start questioning them, and then all it takes is just one plank to be pulled, and it's gone. How close are we to that happening with the J6 pipe bomber, with Thomas Crooks? Do you have any faith that it will ever happen, that the American public will actually get the truth about this?
I really hope so. And I believe that this is what happened with Donald Trump is a whole different level. And so Republicans are bound and determined to do what they can to get the information and records that they need about what happened there. The J6 narrative has been crumbling. And to your point, the weight of the arrogance, really the sloppiness of what happened that day. And it will continue to crumble, Benny. And I'll tell you the other report we're waiting for. The Department of Justice Inspector General Michael Horowitz, his report into January 6th, which Christopher Wray just said a few weeks ago. And I don't think he meant to say it, but he said that report will focus partially on the FBI's use of confidential human sources, informants, on that day. And what I've heard is it will be a pretty explosive revelation as to how many FBI assets were embedded. We already know from the trials, Proud Boys, Oath Keepers, we already know that there were dozens embedded in those groups months before and on January 6th. But I'm hearing that the figure is much higher than what we've even learned in these trials so far.
You can see here, they were able to zoom in on that park bench, just not when Julie's little mysterious agent was dropped off. They just turned the camera away just in time, actually, to see that this, just to not show you what this man's about to do. And the DNC won't give us the corresponding footage that would have covered it. Amazing. The DNC is protecting the MAGA bomber. Ah, wow. That seems like a headline itself, Julie.
Sure does.
Breathtaking. This is powerful. I just can't imagine what will happen if people, it all goes, and then really it does all atomize if you find out that the feds planted these pipe bombs. The more I don't consider myself an expert in it at all. You and Darren obviously are some of the world's experts, Bongino as well. But I can see the total atomization of everything they've done on January 6th if it is proved that the feds planted these pipe bombs. That's it. Then the whole thing's gone. The entire diseased church collapses. Yeah. Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, you have to follow Julie Kelly. You have to follow. I demand it. In fact, 700,000 Americans follow Julie Kelly and her sweet doggies. But it's more than just sweet dog. It's worth following accounts for cute photos of puppies and dogs. I get it. But you'll get so much more from Julie. And we need to build up the megaphones for truth. So get in there and follow her. Follow her Substack as well, Declassified Live. Let's pop that up. And this is the most recent article here. Another mysterious moment at the DNC pipe bomb mystery, declassified with Julie Kelly right here. So make sure that you follow as well. Thank you, Julie.
Benny, thank you. This was amazing. Thank you so much for the time and covering my work and going through all of these scandals. And as I said, we'll have a lot more to come. So thank you so much for bringing this to your massive audience. I really appreciate it.
The truth shall set you free, right? What Christ calls us to be salt and light. Be light, you know? And be salty while you're doing it. And Julie Kelly is salty.
Okay. I vote for both. Okay.
That's right. Thank you, Julie. God bless you.